I want to start with Russell Wilson, now currently a Seattle Seahawk, a very good Seattle Seahawk, a perennial MVP candidate, one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. But will he be a Seattle Seahawk for long? It is really interesting to me that Russell Wilson is in this situation, Jake, where he is the franchise in Seattle. He is the guy. Mm-hmm. Whether you love him or hate him, Russell Wilson's the best quarterback I think in the NFC. Mm-hmm. I think he is right there with Aaron Rodgers with the way that Aaron Rodgers played. I think Rodgers and Russell Wilson are at this point, because of where Tom Brady is in his maturation as a human. I would take Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady. Now, we could have conversations about what about a Super Bowl, Monty? What about one game? Okay, well, that's different. When the season kicks off, there are a few quarterbacks I'd rather have than Russell Wilson.
Right.
But it turns out that the Seattle Seahawks don't care what he thinks about the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. And that is the essence of this argument. My question is, if you are the Seattle Seahawks, how are you in conflict with the only guy on the roster that matters in Russell Wilson?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. This offseason has been hot with quarterback issues, whether we're talking Deshaun Watson, whether we're talking Aaron Rodgers, Mitch Trubisky and the Bears. I mean, there's been several situations where the quarterback front office relationship has not been good. And I think that in Seattle, I don't know how you're even putting yourself in a position to burn Russell Wilson. I don't get it. The guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's taken you to Super Bowls. He's done everything that you've asked him to do. And by the way, there's just that little thing where he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in a league full of teams who don't have good quarterback play, who are suffering because of it. By the way, I'd hope that people remember that he's beaten guys like Aaron Rodgers several times. He's beaten the best of the best. And what does he have to show for it? He's got damn near 400 sacks in his career to show for it, which is the leading number in his 9-year NFL career. No other quarterback's been sacked that much. So I think that really is the issue. I think Russell Wilson wants more protection, and he wants to be able to say, hey, I'm not in support of us drafting that guy, or I want this guy, or whatever. He wants input.
Does he deserve input? It's a huge question. I mean, he is, again, I'll just not to be redundant, he's the most important player on that roster. Mm-hmm. And so when you start wondering if guys like Aaron Rodgers, who certainly got Fathead McCarthy fired, so I would say he has some input.
Yeah.
Right? If you look around the NFL, the best quarterbacks, there's only one reason Rob Gronkowski's in Tampa and won another Super Bowl. It's because Tom Brady said so.
Antonio Brown.
Yeah, Antonio Brown as well. So you look around the league, the best quarterbacks are usually able to write their own ticket. Why should Russell Wilson not be able to have input on who they draft and what they put around him? And if I'm Russell Wilson, it is understandably frustrating that they're not going after offensive linemen, that it does not seem that they are prioritizing the safety of Russell Wilson. And it's just interesting to me that he is so clearly frustrated. Mm-hmm. You know, and it'll... I am going to watch this very closely because I think it is incredible theater. Now, a couple of things need to be said. Mm-hmm. They're not trading Russell Wilson. Not only because he has a huge cap hit for them over the next 2 years, it'd be $36 million. If they trade him after June 1st, that gets split. But it'd be $39 million.
One way or the other.
You're not trading that. Not right now. And he's Russell Wilson. You're not trading Russell Wilson if you're the Seattle Seahawks. At least I wouldn't guess so.
Yeah, I don't know how, but this is my point. Like, I don't know how is it that NFL franchises consistently mess this up? How is it that the teams around the league who've got a franchise caliber quarterback, you look at the Bills, you look at, again, Seahawks, you look at the Packers, like any team that's got a franchise quarterback, how is it that relationship is not priority number one over anything else in your organization? Because at the end of the day, the quarterback position in the NFL is the end-all be-all. Tom Brady just won and took the Bucs to the Super Bowl after they had been a bad team for a long time. You think about the Jameis Winston years and all the things and all the times that the Bucs have been through in the last 10 years. And then Tom Brady rolls in and they win a Super Bowl. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But my point is that if you're the Seattle Seahawks, you're in a division, number one, that's loaded with quarterback talent. Whatever you want to say about the Cardinals, Kyler Murray is going to be a problem in that division. As that team gets better, Kyler Murray is going to continue to get better and be a problem. So you've got the Cardinals. I now look at the Rams. Yes, Matthew Stafford is a question mark, but I do think he's going to do some nice things. And then you look at the 49ers. Jimmy G isn't amazing, but he's good enough to go out and win a game. So if you're the Seahawks, risking this relationship not only is going to cost you wins, it's going to make you look like an idiot when it comes time to find a new franchise quarterback. So it doesn't do anything good for you. Why would you not just allow Russell Wilson to air his grievance, air his opinion, listen to him, and then, hey, Russ, this is what we can do. We can't check all your boxes, but this is what we can do in the draft. Is that cool? That's all guys want.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like the Seahawks want to do that. And obviously the other side of this coin is the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys have had a long courtship of Russell Wilson. I mean, it is no secret that Jera really likes him some Russ. He probably likes Sierra more than he likes Russ, but who cares? They also tend to have quarterback problems in Dallas, whether that is, Tony Romo's broken back, constantly fumbling in Seattle, ironically enough. Mm-hmm. Dak with this leg injury that seems like he is recovering well. And now they just don't seem to want to pay Dak Prescott, which is a little surprising to me based on the numbers that Dak has put up in Dallas. I don't see how you let a guy like Dak Prescott just get away. Now, I'd remind you, Dak Prescott is currently not under contract to the Dallas Cowboys. He's not walking away. He's not a free agent. They're going to put a tag on him. I thought it was interesting that your boy, Kirk Cousins, came out and I thought offered Dak some pretty interesting advice.
Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins is uniquely qualified to talk about these situations, mainly because he went through it when he was with Washington and going to the Vikings. And I think that, Kirk coming out and saying, hey, the franchise tag can be your friend. Yeah, it can be your friend, but I think at the end of the day, a guy like Dak Prescott wants longevity in his contract. He wants security. I want to be paid what I deserve over many years. That's what he wants, and I don't blame him for that. But at the same time, you also can't have unrealistic expectations that a guy in Jerry Jones, who has proven time and time again to be loyal on one hand with his head coaches, but then cold-blooded on the other hand with his players, you can't have the expectation as a player that he's just going to write a check to you, that he's just going to ink that contract, no problem, go ahead and ride off into the sunset. That's never who Jerry Jones has been. Never. And so that's why I don't understand why people are so surprised that Dak hasn't been paid yet. The only reason it's surprising is because Dak Prescott's a hell of a quarterback, but from a franchise perspective, it's not surprising. And so this whole thing with Russell Wilson in Seattle, coinciding with the fact that Dak Prescott technically doesn't have a contract right now and has some options, makes for sort of this perfect melting pot of like, oh man, they're not signing Dak, so they're going to get Russ. Well, I don't think that's actually going to happen. I would hope that the Seahawks would repair this relationship. And by the way, I don't think the relationship is like terribly broken. I don't think that we're in a situation in Seattle that we are certainly in Houston. That's two totally different things.
Oh yeah, but if you listen to what Russ is saying,
yeah,
I mean his words are not being minced. I mean he wants input into the draft, and I don't disagree with him on that. The thing I struggle with is why wouldn't you want him to have input into the draft?
My opinion, I don't. This is my opinion. I think that owners really struggle with the concept of losing control on any level. Owners want to be in control on everything because they're the big rich guy in the room. That's that.
The big rich guy.
But that's who they are. They have a ton of money. They've got a lot of power. Like that. That's the mentality they live with. Whether they're working on football or a business venture, or whatever it is, they want to be in the driver's seat. And they literally want players to not talk to them, just put your pads on and go play the game.
Yeah.
That's what they want. And unfortunately, we're moving into a time in our society, and especially in the NFL and in the NBA as well, where that's no longer good enough. The top end LeBron James, Kevin Durant level player in the NBA, the top end quarterback in the NFL is smart enough now to understand that they can leverage owners. Hey, I want this, and if you don't give it to me, I'm going to walk. Just like Deshaun's doing in Houston, just like Aaron Rodgers did in Green Bay with Fathead McCarthy, as you always call him. That's what these guys are doing. And so at some point, right, it's like what the Joker says in The Dark Knight. You've got an unstoppable force trying to move an immovable object. What's going to happen? But that's what it is, because owners will never budge.
Yeah, and I guess nor should they. I mean, they've earned the right. They've earned the right to kind of control, I guess, their players. I mean, they pay them. Russell Wilson is incredibly well paid. And there is some sacrifice that comes with that kind of money. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the tipping point. Hey, man, we're going to give you, one of the richest contracts in the history of the NFL, Russ.
Yep.
Now you need to just kind of go ahead and play football at a very high level.
Is that fair?
No, and maybe not fair. The question is it realistic? And my answer would be no, I don't think it's realistic. I think without doubt, Russell Wilson, and I know that this is one of those conversations, but Russell Wilson, is he how do I say this gently? Russell Wilson's not the leader that Aaron Rodgers is. Is Russell Wilson, does he command the respect that a Tom Brady does?
I think with the players he does, but not with ownership.
And I don't get that. Because I would agree, it's very clear that Russell Wilson's teammates respect him.
Oh, yeah,
love
follow
that guy.
him in the
They love that guy,
dude.
yeah. They love that guy.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand where the Seahawks are at on this. They're risking an awful lot by not giving in, but not at least placating Russell Wilson. You cannot continue to patchwork Russell Wilson's offensive line. The guy has been hit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times every year. Mm-hmm. And there's just not a whole lot he can do about that.
Nope.
And number one, it is, and this is what I think a lot of people don't consider, it is shrinking his income potential. Mm-hmm. Every time you get hit in the NFL, your career could potentially be over. Mm-hmm. See Alex Smith. Mm-hmm. You look at those situations. You look at the injuries that quarterbacks routinely have. You look at Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. Mm-hmm. Trevor Lawrence took a beating this last year at Clemson. You look at the college football playoff, he took a beating. Well, guess what? Now he's going to have labrum surgery on his non-throwing shoulder. That's what happens when you do not build in infrastructure to deal with guys who can run 15 to 20 miles an hour downhill after a quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you realize that's how fast NFL linebackers are running? Mm-hmm. 15 to 20 miles an hour downhill.
Yeah.
Going after the football. Mm-hmm. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And yet the Seahawks will not make the investment in Russell Wilson, which is what I call it. When you're not buying offensive line, you're not investing in the quarterback. Look at what happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
It's a great example.
I mean, the guy got his ass kicked all night long in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
He has been running for his life this season. They lost both of their tackles. They have one guy that played in the Super Bowl on that offensive line that started the season week 1 on that offensive line. One.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world. They're trying to stop Shaq Barrett and Ndamukong Suh and JPP and Levante David and all of this speed and power with a patchwork offensive line. Arguably the best quarterback in the NFL, who is an escape artist. Oh, that's right, until he broke the plantar bone in his foot.
Yeah.
And now he's not that much of an escape artist as we found out.
And why did that happen? Because he was running for his life.
Yeah. It is. That's why I say I get back to Russ and the Seahawks. It's shocking to me. Mm-hmm. It is shocking to me that he's gone to the media and voiced this opinion. That he's gone because when you're Russell Wilson and you're going to the media voicing this opinion, what that says to me is you've gone to the Seahawks and they just don't want to hear you. So now you have to find an alternative, and he's found those alternatives locally in Seattle. Nationally, he's been on radio and TV, and it's just remarkable to me the Seahawks have let it get to this point.
And I think the thing for Russell Wilson is that the reason he's comfortable doing that is because he understands who he is and what his value is, and he understands that. Hey,
Well,
if things sour for me in Seattle, cool. There's definitely going to be another team, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a luxury to have if you're Russell Wilson.
and I think Russell Wilson is in a unique situation that when you have a shark like Jerry Jones, who is swimming in your waters, that gives you a lot of leverage. And don't kid yourself. I again, hear me clearly on this. Don't go filling up my DMs and my comments on YouTube. Oh, you're an idiot. It's not that I'm telling you that Russell Wilson's going to be traded right now. But what I'm telling you is, at some point, and I think it could be in the next 2 years, when he leaves Seattle, if he leaves Seattle, remember this conversation. Because Russell Wilson is not a guy that you want to see walk out that door.
I don't know how that's even possible. The guy should be a lifelong Seahawk.
What's worse, losing the Sonics or losing Russell Wilson?
Losing Russell Wilson.
I think in the NFL
Russell
it could
Wilson.
be. I mean, do you know how demoralizing that would be?
Yeah, you're not a good team anymore. I'm serious.
Man.
Like I know you've got DK, you've got some nice pieces, but without Russell Wilson, you're not a good team anymore. I mean, that's how much he does for that offense and that team. I mean, they haven't even had a good defense the last couple of years, and he's been doing some things.
Well, somebody forgot to tell them that they need to invest in Russell Wilson. I mean, you have to invest in Russell Wilson. It has to happen. So it'll be interesting. Where are you at with Dak these days? You've been a known anti-Daxer. Get it?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Daxer.
Okay,
right. Okay,
fine.
Sure.
You play that game.
Yeah, look, I think that Dak, I think he's a hell of a quarterback, but I think he's still got to go through that process where he wins something. You have to do that because if we go back and we remember that Saints playoff game where they went and got their ass handed to them, or any of the other big games that they played in, those are games that they really should have won. And they weren't even close.
Not even close.
And so I'm not sitting here saying that that's an indictment on Dak, but what I am saying is there's a difference between going out and winning those games on the road and writing a legacy and losing those games and just kind of being a big-time regular season quarterback who can throw for 5,000 and then gets his ass handed to him in the postseason. And that's kind of who I think Dak Prescott is right now. I think he dominates the postseason. I think he's 5,000 yards every year that he plays. And then you get into games in the postseason against really good teams and really good defenses who have plenty of time to scheme against you, and you're not the same guy anymore. And that's what I think is a tough part, because I do think he can win. He just hasn't.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. But, and to their credit, if you will, I think the Dallas Cowboys have invested in weaponry. They have invested in guys like Zeke. The offensive line, while it's been injured, they have spent good money on that offensive line. And whether that is, offensive line coaches, whether that is offensive line talent, running backs like investing in Zeke to make that offensive line better. Those are all things that the Dallas Cowboys have been willing to do. The issue becomes why you have waited this long to pay Dak Prescott. And there's not a chance in the world that Jerry's going to let him walk.
No.
They are going to tag Dak Prescott. There's no question about that. I just am amazed. This is Gordon Hayward with the Jazz.
Yep, same thing. Yep.
And I always go back to this, and I know, again, Jazz fans are already twerked at the things that I've said. Twerked is probably not the right word.
Yeah.
But if you want to twerk, go right ahead. I won't tell anybody. But the point is that when you look at Gordon Hayward, the only reason he wound up with the Boston Celtics was because the Jazz let him go and sip from somebody else's cup, right?
Yep.
And when you start figuring out, hey, I don't feel all that loved in Utah or Dallas or Seattle, let me go and talk to the Boston Celtics. Let me go and talk to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
If you're Russ. Hey, let me go, if I'm Dak Prescott, where's a good fit for Dak Prescott? Carolina? Let me go talk to Carolina and see. And then all of a sudden, you feel like you look pretty good in that Carolina blue.
Yep.
And you feel like, yeah, we could make this work.
We can win that division.
And then all of a sudden, your relationship with the Utah Jazz, Gordon Hayward, is never the same. And you wound up walking out the door, awkwardly lying on a players-only blog. But the point is, you wind up leaving a place where you really should have never left. Gordon Hayward should still be a Utah Jazz.
Agreed.
There's no doubt about that. He should be a Jazz man. It is not even a question. Now he's finding his roots in Charlotte, oddly enough, with the Hornets. But I caution franchises when you have a star and he is coming up on free agency. If you want that guy, you better let him know you want him, and you better get a deal done.
Don't even let him think about going to another team. Don't even let him humor that. Hey man, we value you. Here's a huge deal. Notice Patrick Mahomes didn't have any trouble getting re-signed.
No,
right?
Not at all.
He didn't have any trouble getting re-signed.
And by the way, this leg injury to Dak should not be. A lot of people have been talking about how, there's this leg injury and you can't give him a huge deal. My ass, yes, you can.
It's really not. It's an ankle thing. It's different.
And they're saying that he is going to be 100% recovered from that.
Yeah, he will. He will.
I have no doubt that he will.
There's a big difference between. Don't get me wrong. That injury was gnarly. I mean, that was one of the worst injuries I've ever seen. But at the same time, just because it's visually terrible does not mean that it's career-ending or something that he really even needs to be hugely worried about. Yeah, he's going to have to work his ass off to get back from it. But it's not an injury. It's not the same deal as Alex Smith or any of these other guys who had just next-level career-ending style injury. Dak will come back from this. He will get paid. It's just a matter of who's going to give him the long-term contract. And by the way, it's also a matter of how hard Dak and his agent are going to push to get max value, because that's the other thing that I think plays into these situations. Dak has been pushing to get 40 for a long time. And now that Pat got his contract, I think Dak can easily get 40.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if you look at the top free agents in the NFL, I mean, I really like Trent Williams, the tackle in San Francisco. If I'm the Seahawks, I would love the Chicago Bears to sign Trent Williams. That's never going to happen. I look at the best franchises, the people who wind up investing in guys like Trent Williams, Brandon Scherf, who's a free agent as well. The guys who wind up investing in those guys, I think that tells you a lot about the way they value the run game and the quarterback. And Trent Williams is a guy that if I'm Russell Wilson, I want everything to do with that guy. Now, their cap is a problem. It's not like they've got, starting left tackle money available in free agency. They'd have to be creative. But that's the kind of move that I think Russell Wilson wants this team to make.
Well,
commit to him.
Isn't it what you always say? Isn't it? You said this last week when we were talking about the Super Bowl matchup. It's not. It's not the big names, the nameplate player name that's going to win you the game. It's the not offensive linemen aren't role players, but it's the role player style guy that wins the game.
It's the lesser known guys. Yeah. It is, Brandon Scherf in Dallas is, or Schreff or what? Schreff.
Who?
Your mom, guards, linemen. It's Cole Beasley's of the world. Mm-hmm. It's guys like Scotty Miller. They're not in the Super Bowl without Scotty Miller. Mm-hmm. I mean, that there's no doubt about that in Tampa. It's guys like that wind up winning you Super Bowls. It is, and I say it in the NBA as well. It's guys like Bobby Hansen and John Paxson that made sure that Mike won 6 rings. If you look at the Lakers winning a ring last year, with all due respect to AD and LeBron, it was Cantavius. He hit some big shots down the stretch for them to close that thing out.
Yes.
You have to have those kinds of contributions. The guys like Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, those big guys, they're usually going to be there when it's all on the line.
Yeah.
When there is cash to be had, those guys are going to the bank.
Yep.
Just know that. But they cannot carry all of that cash to the bank without the help of guys that are role players.
Yeah.
And, man, I'll tell you, you don't hear, in Kansas City, you don't hear Fisher's name a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When did you hear about him? When he was out for the season and you went to the Super Bowl without him and you got your ass handed to you.
Yep.
That's when you hear about him. And usually, it is, in the NFL, it's usually offensive linemen that get hurt who either get drafted high or look at Tristan Wirfs. This is what we have talked about this for over a year now.
Yep.
The Arizona Cardinals should have drafted Tristan Wirfs. They didn't, and they were worse off because of it.
And where does Tristan Wirfs wind up?
In the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
I mean, he is a guy that winds up playing a couple different spots on that Tampa line, and you know, you cannot overstate the fact that really shitty football teams usually make really shitty decisions in personnel.
Totally.
It's not rocket science.
It's amazing how it happens, too. And that's why the Russell Wilson thing is so surprising.
Because they're really a good football organization.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks, and we've probably belabored this point, but the Seattle Seahawks are a really good football organization.
But my point here is that whether you're talking about a guy like a Russell Wilson situation, or you're the Cardinals talking about your offensive line for 5 years now, or the relationship with Patrick Peterson, or whatever, you know, any of these situations that we see in the league, those decisions are what define great organizations
Correct.
from crappy organizations.
Correct.
So, you know, it's no surprise that it was the Bucks and it was the Chiefs who wind up
Correct.
in the Super Bowl. It's no surprise that the Saints are able to bounce back from a Drew Brees injury with a guy like Taysom Hill playing the position and all those other guys who stepped in because they know what they have. So it's really that simple.
I just don't think that you can ever be too consistent. I don't think that you can ever have too much continuity. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if you're running an oil change business, a restaurant, or an NFL franchise.
Yeah.
Look at Bruce Arians and that coaching staff. They've been together. They know each other. They're comfortable. They've been there. Look at some of the key players on that Super Bowl winning Bucks team. They've been there.
Yeah.
Look at Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. They have a relationship. They know each other. Tom knows where Gronk's going to be.
You know what's amazing to
They
me
win.
about those two? Gronkowski, largely, the whole year, didn't do anything offensively. He just blocked. He flew under the radar, was not a big-name player for them. And
Stayed
in the
healthy
Super Bowl,
largely.
Then the Super Bowl, what happens? 2 touchdowns, does exactly what Gronk always does.
Because big game players show up. I mean, and that's what we were talking about it during the Super Bowl. Big game players are there. LeBron is always going to be there. Rob Gronkowski's going to catch touchdowns in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Tom Brady's going to throw touchdowns in the Super Bowl because he's a clutch, big-time player. And that's what this Russell Wilson thing is infuriating. I'm not even a Seahawk fan.
You're not a 12?
12ers, let's see the 12 stand up, be heard, pricks. Anyway, the point is,
Wow.
I am not a fan. Seahawk fans can be a little bit much.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Anyway, the point is, you better not let go of Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I just would hope you wouldn't.